Afternoon, folks. Just sorting out Facebook. Afternoon, folks. That's Facebook sorted. So, afternoon, folks. It's the Two Davies on the 26th of the 2nd, 2024, minus a Davy. So once again, it'll be done in the style of Indie Truck Davy. So let's see who's in the house. We've got Wee Bud, Ruth, Gregor, Rosie, Rebecca, Eddie, Wolf Pet, Reagan Elite. Check out Reagan Elite's channel, folks. Does great stuff. Hey, the Scotsman Independence. Hi, Gingers out there in America. Good morning. Sandy, Millie, Hugh, Mark, Mags. Anybody in for Facebook? Yeah, let's have a look. First through the door for Facebook, as far as I can see today, is Francis McKenna. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Sandra, Joseph, Melanie, Margaret. Right, well, we're up to our 100 marks, so let's get this broadcast underway. So it's Indie Truck Davy out the truck and at home in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. Where it is a lovely afternoon. Quite clear at the moment, 8 degrees. No bad for this time of year.
And so, you want to know the bloody well, look at your head one day.
That's my line. And if you want to know the weather's like where you are, look at your head bloody windy. I hadn't finished the Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, but Madam Director's getting the sack, guys. Anyway, that's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. Why not the weather's like you are? Look at your head bloody windy, alright? Now, the fallout of Starmer's stunt in Parliament continues. The SNP to bring new motion to the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, better known as House of Commons. Now, Starmer's stunt hasn't went down well, and his MPs are taken to the television to laugh about it and to admit that it was a political stunt and that they did pressurise the Speaker. And yet, the official line is no, they didn't. So, I was a bit bamboozled with this. But this come up on Channel 4, I think it was. Let's have a wee look. I think it's Channel 4. But I'll stick this one up just for fun. Because I was a wee bit surprised at it. You know, Channel 4. So, as I say, I was a wee bit surprised at this one. He was even laughing about it. So, let's hit the play button. Well, for some reason, there's no point. Sorry about that, no point there. I don't get it. I had the audio, but I didn't have the visual. But hopefully you heard the audio, folks. There you have it. You know, that was a Grant. Is it Grant Bryson? So, you know, Chris Bryant, MP for the Rhondda. Unbelievable. Yep. We just hijacked it. It was a dirty thing to do. And they're laughing about it. Official line was they weren't putting pressure on the Speaker. And here we've got their MPs on the telly. Tell us, we were. Totally immoral. You couldn't make it up. Anyway, the SNP are going to bring a new motion to Parliament, apparently. And apparently the SNP's Westminster leader, Stephen Flynn, no audio either. Sorry, folks, I'll play that again. Let's see if we can get this bloody thing to play this time. I might know. Well, I'll take it down till I get it to play. I'll probably have to get another link for it. But this has to be seen. Let's go back to share. Hold on, see if we can get it right this time for you guys. It's for Ross Greer's here in Scotland's Twitter feed. So, hopefully, it'll play this time.
In Parliament is terrible. I mean, we brought ourselves terribly into disrepute, I think, on Wednesday.
But were you put up to that filibuster, or did you take it upon yourself?
A bit of both, if I'm honest. I think the whole day was grubby, right. And we need a system which doesn't allow people to manipulate the rules to be able to get what they want.
Which you did. Yeah.
The way we do our business in Parliament is terrible. I mean, we brought ourselves...
Right, there you go, folks. Did you get it that time? You want me to play it again? I mean, here we've got this Chris Bryson, MP for the Rhondda, on Channel 4 telling us that they deliberately manipulated the game last Wednesday. Deliberately. Wow. See, you couldn't make it up. Huh? This is how ruthless Starmer is to protect his stance on Israel. Actually bend the Commons rules and then admit it. Have his MPs admit it and have a joke about it on television. As I say, anyway, Stephen Flynn says they're going to bring a new motion to the House of Commons, but this time he's wrote to Starmer and Ed Davey to try and find consensus in the way forward. When I read that one, I was like, what? A pair of snakes! And you want to get into bed with them. Especially the one that's just deliberately broken common rules to protect his stance on the slaughter in Gaza. Now, will the Speaker lose his job? Nah, of course not. Of course not. Not going to happen. Even if they did hold a vote in no conference, it's up to him whether he goes or not. But no, the funerals calmed down now. Apparently it was the SNP's fault. So as I say, I don't know what he's thinking about going to talk to two miscreants looking for a way forward. Excuse me, folks. Outrageous. Anyway, a wee cheerful story to move on. And the Minister for the Economy here in Scotland, I don't know why we have one because the economy is reserved. But Minister for the Economy, Mary McCallan, is pregnant and is to go on maternity leave at the beginning of the summer recess. The Lonely Rag the Express tells us that she's the second Scottish minister to take maternity leave. And I'm wondering, what's the point? Why are you telling us this? That's a good news story. A young minister in the Scottish Government, a talented young lady, who's about to have a happy event in her life. and for some reason a problem that she's going to take maternity leave. Man, some of these red tops really are in the last century, ain't they? Wow. Anyway, apparently the First Minister's going to tell us who's taking it out for her while she's on maternity leave. Bloody good news story. Young woman about to have her first baby. Fantastic story. Now we know it's a very difficult thing to, for any a young family to juggle a new baby and work. So they're saying that she will take up her ministerial role at the end of her maternity leave. I hope she can, because it really is a difficult thing to do. Because she's quite a talented young lady. As I say, for some reason the Express seems to think it's a problem. Well, Neanderthals. Anyway, this one is an accidental good news story for Scotland. And it's the UK government actually getting something right. I don't think in all the years I've been looking in on politics, I've ever bloody said that before. Anyway, this has to do with the climate emergency. This story. The UK government is to leave the International Energy Charter Treaty. Now, most of us will not have heard the International Energy Charter Treaty. I hadn't really heard it. I knew it was out there, but I hadn't really looked into it. And the UK's decided to leave it. Now, what is this Energy Charter Treaty? Well, the countries that entered into it, back whenever it came about, agreed in this treaty to allow exploration for coal, oil and gas in their waters and in their lands. Right, but obviously this might be prior to where we are today with the climate emergency. But it meant the multinationals, the energy giants, could sue governments for getting in the way of their prospecting and extracting minerals, mineral wealth. So let's say, for example, because energy is another one of these reserve matters. Let's say, for example, the UK government decided that there would be no drilling in a certain area of the sea west of Shetland because of a sensitive marine biology area, a marine conservation area. Then, if the UK government said no, no licenses for that area, then the energy giants could sue them through this Energy Charter Treaty. And apparently it's happened 135 times so far. So it's a good news story, because it just means that if the Scottish government decides that there's a marine protection area that they don't want drilled in, then of course they can petition the UK government or set it down in Scots law so that the UK government couldn't do it. Or a bit like the fracking thing here, where there's a moratorium on fracking, and it's not that the Scottish government can put a full ban on fracking. They can't. Energy is a reserve matter, but what they can do is use the local planning laws to stop planning permission, and that's how it's being done. Well, anyway, it just stops these energy giants for trying to sue the Scottish or UK government for saying, no, you're not doing it. So for once, the UK government actually got something right. Now this energy charter treaty is seen as being a great block to nations making the transition to net zero. And being able to say, no, you're not drilling here. Or no, you're not digging that up here. So this is being seen as a win for climate activists here in the UK, and it should be seen so. And it also means that over next a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades going forward, as we move to net zero, then the independent Scottish government, if we're independent, I don't know, I hope I'm not around, a UK government, if they were ever intending to get to net zero, could move away from fossil fuels. Okay. So it's not something we hear a lot of, but this is one to be celebrated, because let's face it, when we look at how things like renewable energy technologies are being pioneered here in Scotland, and the way Westminster's putting blocks on them and putting taxes on them, like the green energy levy, which they've put on, rather than assisting the industry. As we know, a lot of wind farms that were scheduled to be built down south, coastal ones, are not going ahead because the energy levy means the subsidies that they were getting to build these farms means it's just not worth it. So, having these, leaving this energy trade charter just means that the multinationals can't sue national governments for not allowing them to rape the resources. So that's a good news story. As I say, it's not often the UK government gets something bloody right, but this one they have got right. Okay. And another wee story over the weekend, which happened actually last weekend, is only just seeping into the Scottish consciousness here this weekend, and that is that the European group of left leaning parties and progressives at their conference last week endorsed the idea that their confederation within the European Parliament should use their influence to influence national governments and Europe to influence the UK government to ensure that Scotland has a route to self-determination. Now, what they're basically saying is they recognise, the left and progressive movement in Europe recognise that Scotland is being held prisoner because only the English electorate can decide to let Scotland have a say on its constitutional future. Now, why did the left movement in Europe say only the English electorate? Well, because here in Scotland we don't really vote for British nationalist parties. We've got one Labour MP and 11 Tory MPs and 4 Lib Dem MPs. They're in the minority, and even after the next election, they're going to be in the minority. So the people, the British Nationalist Party here in Scotland, are better known as cuckoos in the nest. They're the minority here in Scotland, yet they're holding Scotland against its will. Now, the European left movement also recognised that in the last 2 Scottish Parliament elections, the people of Scotland have voted for a second referendum, and their democratic right has been denied by Westminster, using the fact that there is no written constitution and that they're claiming that their parliament is sovereign and that the constitution is reserved. So the European left have recognised that the UK government is actually holding Scotland against its will, and what it said is they're going to use their movement to pressurise governments and institutions within their countries to pressurise the UK government to facilitate Scotland's right to self-determination. But what this European group of left-leaning parties also recognised was that even after the next general election, when there is a Labour government, it recognises that the Labour movement in the UK is also anti-democratic, and that the systems here in the UK aren't very democratic. Asymmetric was the term they used, because the democratic will of the Scottish people are being ignored. So the European left and progressive parties in the European Parliament, who form a grouping, you know how they dare, they say they're going to use their influence in the institutions and governments within their own lands to pressurise the Labour movement and the UK to democratise and to facilitate Scotland's route as a route for the Scots to have a say in self-determination. Will it make much difference? We're out of Europe. We've seen the sort of stunts that Starmer would pull to get what he wants. And just in the Parliament last week, will any pressure for the European Labour movement on the UK Labour movement make any difference to Starmer? No, He's not a socialist. He isn't a member of the Labour movement. He's already told us the Labour Party are no longer the party of the worker, it's all the people. It's the party of the strivers and achievers now. It's the Tory party before the Tory party became UKIP. And now they're about a step away from becoming Reform UK. Mental. So, the European left movement and the European Parliament are going to use their influence with the countries with their countries of origin to pressurise the UK government. Will it have any effect? Nah, none. Unless, of course, things get that bad that the UK government in Westminster under Starmer becomes so desperate to get better access to the EU markets. That's where the pressure will be. Because as the economy continues to contract and things get worse, and they will, then access to Europe is going to be very, very important. Very important. Wee bit of light in the gloom and doom. Apparently the energy cap's dropping by 230 odd quid. Still got a long way to get us back to where we were pre-pandemic and pre-Ukraine war. But you can bet your boots we'll get that wee bit of relief as we hit winter next winter. They'll shoot the bloody price up again. Okay? So, as I say, that's the story of the European left going to pressurise national governments to support the Scottish right to self-determination. Okay. And this week's Scotland shite story. SNP bad Scotland shite story. What was it last week? Was it health last week? Then it'll be education this week. Those of you who have watched me for years know that I tell you this goes round in circles. All the devolved institutions get a spanking and sort of a revolving circle. I've noticed it's probably the same in England and Wales as well. You know, what happens is they'll pick up on a story and then they'll run it all week for different aspects of that particular institution. In this case, it's the education department that's getting it this time, and it's getting it from the EIS. And apparently, according to an EIS study, violence in some Scottish schools is becoming a concern. Now, the loony right-wing press picked this up and run with it after an interview with Jenny Gilruth, Education Secretary, on the telly, where she was asked about the EIS report, which was only published the day before, and she admitted that she hadn't seen it. She hadn't read the report. And then she was asked about violence in Scottish schools, and as an ex-teacher, she said, "I'm not going to demonise the children. And this report's not to be taken as a general. It says there are problems in schools, but it's no right across the education sector." Now, as an ex-teacher, she's right. We don't want to demonise young people. We do have to recognise that in some schools, probably in our cities actually, where poverty is rife and things like that, tensions are high. But there was always a wee bit of violence in schools. Is it right out of hand? Well, the report says that it's concerning in some schools. And I'm sure it bloody well is. But the Education Secretary then gets scalped by the right-wing media and the critics, meaning the cuckoos in the nest, Labour and Tory, because she hadn't read the report, which had all been published the day before, and they say she's washed her hands of the situation. And I'm like, how did we get for I haven't read it yet to have washed my hands of the situation? How poor does your media have to be to get for I haven't read it yet to you've washed your hands of the situation? where in the middle you say, don't take it as a general and don't demonise the kids. And all of a sudden, for these 2 statements, you've washed your hands, or 3 statements, you've washed your hands in the situation. Wow. The press is a bloody disgrace. How did we get free? I've not read the report yet. You've washed your hands in the situation for the cuckoos in the nest. And I bet you the same 2 cuckoos in the nest, education, spokespersons, hadn't they bloody well read the report either? After all, the ink was bare, virtually just drying on it. Ah, absolutely mental. So, expect the education system to be taking a tanking for the next week or so. And then dare say we'll move on to maybe Post Scotland or ambulance or fire brigade again. You know how the cycle goes. You know, and then we'll be back at the NHS. So it just goes round in circles. I don't know how it is in regional areas in England. I'm not sure how it goes in Wales. That's how it works here. We'll pick an institution that's under the control of the devolved government and we'll spank that this week. A bit like last week with the Auditor General against Stephen Boyle telling us everything's shite, nothing works, and we can't afford it. And yet when we go down to the doctor or down to the hospital, everything works fine, thanks very much. You know, and telling us we're not going to make a budget going forward yet year on year. We've managed to budget going forward within the confines that are put upon us. Mental. Right, let's move down that road, shall we? I did a wee blood on this one yesterday about the culture wars of heating up again. You know, and it's not going well for the Tory party, is it? Deputy P. Lee Anderson, a MP for whatever village in the north of England has lost this fucking idiot. He accuses Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, of having handed control of London to Islamists. Wow. Wow. Absolutely mental. Huh? So we've got Labour's problems with the Muslim community. We've got the Tories inflaming Islamophobia. We have got the Speaker of the House of Commons using Islamophobia to shield himself for having helped Keir Starmer and Labour bend the rules last week. The culture wars are being stoked, and Lee Anderson loses the Tory party whip. Not for what he said. No. For no apologising. Deputy Prime Minister Oliver Dowden makes that clear on the telly. And everybody in the Tory party is avoiding using the term Islamophobic. I wonder why. Well, anybody that's been watching me long term will know why. There's been a report commissioned into the Tory party on Islamophobia, and apparently it's a huge bloody problem. Almost as big as Labour's problem. We apparently a anti-Semitic members, whatever anti-Semitic is. So we've got a huge problem with Labour and apparently anti-Semitism, and we've got a huge problem with the Tories with Islamophobia. But it's all pish in the wind. It is. I mean, I dare say when Truss comes back and all, I mean, that loot balls out in America, immersing herself in as far right as you can immerse yourself, the American Republicans. She's way down that rabbit hole. I dare say she'll lose the whip when she gets back and all. But this pish is all because the election can't be fought by either party. on the economy, on trade, on growing the economy. We've all heard the Brexit word before. So they're going on culture wars. And what minorities are getting scudded, well, I said yesterday, at this point in time, it's the Muslim minority and the LGBT and trans community. They're the targets right now. When things turn a wee bit, that'll change. Who'll be next? The Hindus, the Sikhs, the Buddhists? Or will we move on to ethnic groups rather than religious groups? This is pathetic. What we're watching is the disintegration of so-called British values. Why? Because for the last 70, 80, 90 years, the politicians have been in charge of systematically raped, pillaged, stole, and now there's nothing left. None. All gone. So that's it. Culture wars, folks. This is going to be the dirtiest election campaign we've ever seen. Ever. It is absolutely disgusting. But as I said yesterday, I'm no religious man. I don't give a shit what religion you are. I don't care if you're a Christian. I'm an Orthodox Christian, Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, whatever. I don't care if you're Jewish. I don't care if you're Hindu, Sikh, Muslim. I don't care. As long as you conduct yourself properly, nice to people, act with integrity and honour. Things that we all do, every day. Yeah, that's fine by me. We must not let these politicians divide us. They just want to take our eyes off the prize here in Scotland. They also want to divert our attention from the fact the economy's fucked. We cannot, grannies can't afford to live, heat and eat. I mean, look at that. British Gas went from 72 million profit to 751. Well, 17 million people in the UK couldn't afford to put their fucking heating on over the winter. What is there to say about society that's bust, that's that bust? That's that broke? The basic principle of government is to look after its people. No fucking freeze them to death, starve them to death, and steal their national assets. Which is exactly what's going on. And has been for the last 60, 70 years, 80 years, 90. So, that's where we are. That's where we're at doing that road. Culture wars. Yeah, that's how far down the rabbit hole the politicians have went to divert the public for the fucking catastrophe that they have created. Mental. Alright, where are we? Also doing that road. Looks like police will be given more powers to prevent peaceful protest. Okay. Now, apparently, political violence advisor and the crossbench peer was Lord Walney. Keep this bit in mind. Crossbench peer, Lord Walney. Anyway, what Lord Walney says is police need more powers to stop protesters to try to influence the votes of MPs in Parliament. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this just stinks of the power and patronage that these fucking lords have. Does he not understand how democracy works? After we've elected the bottoms, the only way to keep them in check is to apply pressure to them. And that's why we have the right of peaceful protest. Where Lord Walney, who's no used to having to answer to constituents And there's no use to having to soak up pressure for constituents on major issues. What he does get right is that people shouldn't protest outside MPs and MSPs' houses. I'm sorry, that's inappropriate. That's just not on. That's what Lord Walney does get right. Well, you can tell that this political violence advisor is a lord because it doesn't fucking occur to him that MPs are responsible to their constituents, and the way for constituents to keep an MP on the portfolio stroke manifesto they were elected on is to apply fucking pressure. Now, over the last 13 years, what we've witnessed is manifestos being nothing more than something you take to the toilet after the election to wipe your bahookie with, because nobody has stuck to a fucking manifesto pledge. But there you go. The ennobled one, who does not have to answer to constituents, wants police to have powers to stop constituents from trying to influence MPs and how they vote. James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, he says the police will use whatever powers of vote appropriately, but he also agrees that people shouldn't protest outside MPs' houses. Outside their office, outside the Parliament, fair game. Try to influence how they will vote. Well, that's how it works. So if you're an MP that doesn't like having constituents like me sending you emails to pressurise you to move in a direction when a debate's coming along, then you're in the wrong fucking game. That's how politics works. We, the constituents, put pressure on our elected officials to act the way we want them to bloody well act. It just shows you how out of touch these people are. Unelected Lord doesn't understand how democracy works. So he wants police to have powers to stop constituents from trying to influence their MPs. Really? Wow. They one of people's rights to protest and strike or have been stripped away down that fucking road. When that's what you've got in your second chamber. Huh? Some old idiot that doesn't understand that MPs, MSPs and elected officials answer to their bloody constituents. And the constituents will put pressure on them for an outcome that the constituents want. How fucking far down the rabbit hole you have to go to find these idiots? Huh? So much for democracy. Huh? I just have to tell you about that one. It is brilliant. Unelected Lord doesn't want constituents to be able to pressurise MPs to affect how they vote in Parliament. It just says it all. It really does say it all. Mental. Well done, Anne, who's campaigning for the SNP. Great stuff. But it really does say it all. Pleased to get new powers to stop constituents pressurising MPs on important issues of the day. I mean, where did it all go wrong? Where did democracy end? When did the MPs all become such wimps that an email from Two Davies saying, hey, we'd like you to vote this way in the energy debate, please? When did they become that thin-skinned they couldn't take that? Mental. It's a bit like the leader of the House last week trying to con everybody when she was up the next day speaking about Lindsay Hoyle's behaviour when he was talking about the safety of MPs, and the leader of the House, Perry Morgan, gave it. What are you talking about? This place has never bent to any sort of what did she call it again? Pressure from extremism. All of a sudden it's dangerous to be an MP. Because we Mrs. McLaughlin send you an email because she's pissed off she can't afford to buy a new suite. Because of the cost of living crisis. Aye, right. And see all this crap about threats with religious organisations and people of religious ideology and things like that. They will be minorities. There'll be one or two emails here or there compared to the hundreds they get a month on major issues, like the cost of living crisis, the cost of energy, the conflict in Gaza, the conflict in Ukraine. Wow. Okay. So there you go, folks. Lord Bolney doesn't want constituents to have any influence on how their MPs vote. And he wants police to have the power to break up protests to stop outside Parliament and outside constituency offices to stop constituents who have an influence on how their MPs and MSPs vote. All right, then let's move on. This is a story on the Ukraine. We now mark the second anniversary, or we have just marked the second anniversary, I think it was the 22nd, of the outbreak of conflict between Russia and Ukraine. European leaders and the Western leaders gathered in Kiev to pledge their continued support. The UK has pledged an $250 billion in support. The Estonian Prime Minister, Kellen, she had something quite interesting to say on the issue, and that was that we had to ramp up aid, especially military aid, to Ukraine, because if we don't, it means we've missed the lessons in the 30s and the 40s when we failed to funnel aid to those who Hitler was going after. So, now, of course, 2 years in, manpower's running short, munitions is running short, on both sides. And I don't think anybody's heart's in the fight, to be honest. The Ukrainians are bloody well plucky in the face of the onslaught for Russia. They're doing really well to hold them back. But there is going to have to be a political solution to this. The bloodshed can't continue forever. And the answer is no to continually keep funneling weapons in. No, if there's no diplomatic movements in the background to bring the stalemate to an end, to bring the hostilities to an end, and to find an amicable agreement. I mean, it's just not viable to keep firing money and weapons at the Ukrainians. They're running out of manpower, and of course, Western countries are struggling to balance their own books, never mind aid for war. And people are starting to get annoyed every time they see an announcement of billions for this and billions for that. Whereas the place is full of food banks, granny can't afford to heat a house. Fuel cost of living crisis is mental. Food prices are through the bloody roof. You know, it's a very hard line to walk for politicians. But the diplomats need to get their fingers out. Because that's the only way it's going to come to an end. I'm afraid the situation in Gaza is different. A diplomatic solution there would be ideal, but as we know, one side isn't interested in a two-state solution. One side at this point in time looks like it is on the march with the intent of the annihilation of the Palestinian people. Now, that brings us on to Netanyahu the other night, to his ministers, and his plan for Gaza going forward post the conflict. The plan is that everything from the river to the sea will come under control of Israel. Gaza will be demilitarised, except for what's required for policing, apparently. Israel will maintain control of all lands, all borders, and all aviation in the Gaza Strip. And the south of Rafah, they intend to build a wall with a dead man zone in the middle to stop goods from being smuggled in and out of Gaza. They will also institute a programme of re-education. And they will do it through the education institutions, the health institutions, social security institutions. Basically, Gaza, the identity of the Palestinians has been wiped too. Gaza will become a settlement. And then after a while, Israel will claim the resources of Gaza. But their intention is to continue to control everything, including the people. Who the Palestinian Authority, who runs the West Bank, have they mentioned. That's the world's preferred option. That's the US's preferred option. But no for Netanyahu. Nope. The Gaza Strip will come under sole control of Israel. Everything. And it will become a settlement. And what's left of the Palestinian people will be forced out. So that's Netanyahu's plan. The international community might have something else to say. What we do know is the view for the Westminster Parliament is hypocritical. Because as we spoke about earlier with the European group and the European Parliament on Scotland's situation when it comes to self-determination, Westminster's point of view is it should be a two-state solution, and that Israel is not in Israel's gift to grant the Palestinian people the right to self-determination. Funny how they think it's their gift to grant us a say in self-determination, as has been pointed out by the European left-wing grouping in the European Parliament. Huh? Couldn't they make it up? That's why Westminster is a fail. That's why it's continuing to fail. That's why politics in the UK are breaking down. The economy in the UK is breaking down. Society as we used to know it is breaking down. Because there's no morals, there's no integrity, there's no real reason for our politicians to be where they are, except for the fact that they want power, privilege and patronage. They couldn't give a shit about the people. They only give a shit about lining their pockets, and that's whether it's red Tory or blue Tory. So, basically we went full circle there for starting off with a story that had to do with Gaza and finishing off with a story that had to do with Gaza. Now, I haven't spoken to Dave in a couple of days. I'm hoping he's still well. I'll give him a bell after this. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. I know it wasn't as angry. Very difficult to find stories here in Scotland. Since last Wednesday, there's been nothing really, except for Lindsay Hoyle and his help in the Labour Party. As I say, put that video up just so you can see that they're laughing about it. They did pressurise the Speaker, but it'll come to nothing. Why? Because the other side was in it and all. They had to stop that one phrase, collective punishment of the Palestinian people. That had to be stopped at all costs. And it was. Something to do with refusing to have a monitor. Anyway, So that's what I've got for you today, folks. Hope you found that interesting. Hope you found it informative. Now, remember, never mind this culture war push. This is all just crap. It really is. What they're doing is diverting the attention of the peoples of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales and England of their absolute disaster that these islands are becoming under that Westminster government. And believe it or not, England's suffering the worst. England and Wales. Their education institution, infrastructure's 40 bits, their health institution's 40 bits. Jesus, it's murder. It really is. Anyway, folks, as I say, that's it. Hit the like button, share, that all helps with the algorithm, and that means we can generate more funds for food banks. Thank you very much, folks, for everybody that's made donations today. I know this one's a wee bit shorter than me, but that's just the way it is. Now, eyes on the prize, folks. This is an election year. So, the war grade propaganda against the Scottish Government and the Scottish institutions is underway. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you on Thursday. Bye for now.